Deep within the dark, stormy woods, hidden behind a thick blanket of fog, stood a hut. The hut looked stitched together from rotting wood and forgotten bones, its crooked windows watching like half-lidded eyes. It swayed, creaking back and forth on its chicken legs, but there was no wind to make it move, almost like the hut was alive, almost like it was breathing. However, an eerie laughter echoed throughout the dark woods, high-pitched, evil, and chilling. Laughter belonging to a witch as old as time itself. Her yellow eyes poked through the fog, taking a sneak peek of what's to come. But this was no ordinary being. This was the Baba Yaga, the witch of the woods. Vasalisa knelt down by her mother's bedside, holding the old woman's hand with as much love and care she had within her heart. With the old woman nearing her end, she had one last gift for her beautiful daughter. "Take this doll, my dear child," she said. "I have crafted it with my loving hand as best as I could. Take good care of it and never show it to anyone. When in trouble, feed the doll with your troubles and listen closely for its advice. It will get you out of the darkest of times." Now in that moment, Vasalisa felt like part of her soul was enclosed inside the doll. Or maybe it was a guardian angel, a supernatural force that had energy, pure and serene. When Vasalisa kissed her mother's forehead, the old woman parted from this world, leaving behind a scared, vulnerable daughter as well as a grieving, loving husband. After a while, he remarried, trying to give Vasalisa a caring second mother. Instead, he found a cruel, vindictive, and vile woman. The stepmother had two daughters of her own, two of the most spiteful, lazy, and mean young women that ever lived. This foul lady loved her daughters greatly, always showering them with affection, letting them have their way with anything they've ever wanted. Yet she pestered Vasalisa, never letting the girl have a moment's peace. Vasalisa was heartbroken. They wished she would turn frail and ugly with each passing day. They would hurl curses at her, scolding, shouting, and belittling the young woman just because they could. After all, Vasalisa's father was away on work for a long time. "Come, Vasalisa, where are you? Gather the wood, make a fire, knead the dough, wash the dishes, milk the cow, hurry, sweep the floor. Don't you dare take a break even for a second." And so Vasalisa, as hurt as she may have been, smiled and bowed her head. "Yes, mother," she said gladly. She worked and worked until her bones ached in pain. She worked until all the chores were done before nightfall, but they still were not pleased. Such sorcery, they claimed, it cannot be. How could Vasalisa's beauty amplify with each passing day? How could the girl work herself to the grave with dust and mold and mud, but still look like a princess that lived in a castle? But Vasalisa had a secret. When no one was looking, she would milk the cow and give some to her doll to drink.
"Here, little one, have this milk and help me in my struggle,"
she said. The doll stretched his arms and jumped down from Vasalisa's hand. It grabbed a broom and helped her sweep. It gathered the wood and helped her make the fire. The doll then cleaned the weeds from the garden and found a herb, one that would preserve Vasalisa's beauty from the harshness of the scorching sunlight. Then, one night, the stepmother and her daughters conjured up a plan. The vile woman gave all three daughters work to do. The eldest would weave lace, the second to knit stockings, and Vasalisa to spin yarn. However, when the last splinter snapped and cracked and fell, dousing their only source of light, the village house was covered in darkness. "Oh no," gasped the eldest daughter, "what are we to do?" Surely one of us would have to venture the dark woods and retrieve light from Baba Yaga. The second daughter replied, "Well, it won't be me. My two needles glisten just enough for me to see what I'm knitting." The eldest scoffed, "My needles shine bright enough for me to see my lace." "That means, Vasalisa, you will be the one to see Baba Yaga." The two stepdaughters pushed Vasalisa out of the house in the pouring rain. Flashes of lightning and loud thundercracks frightened the young woman as she held her doll tightly in her arms, shivering from the wild, uncontrollable wind bending the trees. She saved a piece of bread in her pocket, of which she removed and fed the doll.
Oh, what am I to do, little one? They are sending me to Baba Yaga, a witch that gobbles up people, including their bones.
She sobbed. The doll chewed the bread and said, "Fear not, my lady, for as long as I am with you, everything will be okay. We shall walk this dark path, and let us do it with a smile on our faces. However, let us also be wary on our journey, for the 3 horsemen would find us easily. Come now, Vasalisa, we must make haste." The young woman's journey was a long one. Treading through the dark woods with no light was frightening indeed, but the horse galloping towards her right scared her the most. A horse, dark like the night, moved swiftly against the wind. The rider mounting the horse was donned in a full black hooded cloak. Was he a person or a phantom, she thought? But his shadow-like image reassured her that whatever he was not human. She blinked and it seemed like time itself had skipped. The doll and Vasalisa looked behind her and noticed how much distance they covered within a split second. The doll said, "Remain calm, Vasalisa. The Dark Rider represents the omen of death. His job is to make us find the hut quickly. We shall not be frightened by his darkness nor his magic. We shall smile and strut with purpose on our path ahead." Before Vasalisa knew it, there was a rider donned in a red hooded cloak spotted in the distance. The horse he rode on was also red like his eyes, surrounded by flames. He moved his hand upwards and the trees caught alight, burning the dampened bark as if it never rained. The doll said, "Remain calm, Vasalisa. This rider is trying to weaken our spirits with fire. He wants to scare us so our minds are vulnerable for Baba Yaga to snatch us away. Pay no heed to the burning embers, we will choose a different path." Shortly after, the brightness of morning arrived. Vasalisa and the doll took a moment to bask in the sunlight, drying their clothes and skin from the wetness of the stormy night. But they couldn't rest for too long, as the white horse with the white hooded cloaked rider was behind them. Swiftly he rode through the fog and dissipated a short distance in front of them, like he crashed into an invisible gate. The doll said, "The white rider is leading us to Baba Yaga. This means we're close. Look." The doll pointed in front. "I think I see the hut." Vasalisa, with the doll held tight in her arms, walked through the fog and reached the witch's hut. The stench was so foul the young woman covered her mouth, trying not to throw up. But the smell wasn't coming from the hut itself, rather what surrounded it. The fence round the hut was made from human skull and bones. So was the gate made of woman's limbs and hair. So were the bolts made of men's dismembered arms. But the lock itself was molded from human teeth. Then a murder of crows landed on the skulls on the fence, tilting their heads abnormally to take a closer look at the young woman. When Vasalisa backed up, the doll swayed to the right, moving along with her. She was heading towards a dead tree that seemed alive, its branches sharp and windy, moving like a whip ready to lash out Vasalisa's skin. Behind the fence, though, was a large cauldron with bubbling soup. Vasalisa couldn't see much, only that there were arms and legs boiling inside. But when she ventured too close to the fence, a vicious dog ran up to her, barking uncontrollably. Drool dripped from its mouth as its sharp teeth gnawed at her, trying to rip her flesh off her body. But she couldn't move towards the gate either, for a black cat with the glowing green eyes hissed at her, trying to claw the young woman a few times. Then a maid walked out of the hut, holding her back in pain. Her clothes were torn and dirty as she moved ahead, trying to see through the fog. Her eyes widened as she exclaimed, "Oh no, my dear child, you should not have come here. Baba Yaga will be here any moment." Alas, at the behest of the maid's words, Vasalisa heard that ominous laughter echoing through the woods. She felt the gushes of wind from above and the layer of evil seemingly lowering itself to the ground. She felt the earth trembling and the trees whistling an ominous tune that lingered for far too long. Storm clouds gathered above as the young woman looked at the darkened sky, only to see Baba Yaga flying up in her motor, swinging her pestle-like whip and sweeping the tracks away with a broom. Then she landed behind the gate as the ground crumbled at her feet. The witch snuffed and giggled.
Oh, my visitor.
And who might you be? Baba Yaga was an evil, frightening, and cunning witch that abducted people, slaughtered and cooked them, used their bones for building a hut and fence, then ate them in her stew. Much like the witch from Hansel and Gretel, but far more primal and older. She was an old crone with a bony skeletal figure with wild hair, long crooked nose, and iron teeth sharp enough to chew through bone. She may smell of death, rot, or the woods depending on the season or her intentions. Her eyes often glowing or piercing, suggesting otherworldly sight. Many could be lured in by her gaze while others were too frightened beyond belief. Baba, in many Slavic languages, is an old term for old woman or grandmother. Yaga or Yaga can mean horror, anger, or illness, depending on the linguistics and context of the word. Loosely translated, Baba Yaga is a terrifying old woman or witch grandmother. They say no one can defeat her, not physically at least. The witch not only served as a veil between the living and dead, but also a symbol of possession and ancient wisdom. Sometimes she may even appear as a helper until the one asking for help failed her tests. However, there was no guarantee that she will help or harm. Her motives were mysterious and her morality was alien, even if the person did everything she commanded them to do. Some tales also mention the 3 brave riders whom she tortured were now stuck in the veil. It is also uncertain whether the horsemen work for her, leading innocent victims to their demise or leading people to the hut with the hope they could destroy her once and for all. Now Vasalisa trembled uncontrollably, like the nerves in her body were sending out electric sparks jolting through her body. She kept it all hidden, she kept it secret, just in case Baba Yaga would possess it.
My name is Vasalisa, dear grandma.
The young woman replied, her voice almost drowned out by the barking, meows, and whistling. Then she bowed in a form of respect, but also refusing to meet the witch's yellow eyes. Baba Yaga replied,
Ah, I know you. You've become the stepdaughter of one of my kinswomen.
The witch pulled out a human head from her sack and tossed it into the boiling cauldron. She then licked the tip of her fingers, completely unbothered that her sharp fingernails had cut her tongue.
Well, speak up, girl. I do not have all day. What is it that you want?
We need light for our cottage back home, and we would humbly and graciously accept a light that you have to spare, one that burns throughout the darkest of nights without dying.
No one has ever asked me for something so gracefully before. But that will not save you. Do not mistake my knowing of your stepmother excuse you from my wrath. 3 tasks. Complete it and I will consider your request. Fail and you shall become a new ingredient to my soup.
Baba Yaga put her rotten finger to her chapped up lips and said, "Shh." The dog stopped barking, the cat silenced, and the tree calmed its branches. The witch then snapped her fingers very rudely and called the maid to take Vasalisa into the house and get her started. Vasalisa greeted the maid with the same respect she showed Baba Yaga and then entered the home. The hut smelled like rotten eggs and the air felt thick, heavy, and stuffy. The witch yawned and her jaw stretched all the way to her chest and retracted back to normal. She snapped her fingers again after lying down on the couch. Vasalisa took the last piece of bread out of her pocket and fed the doll.
Have this, little one. It is my last piece. The witch wants me to do 3 impossible tasks. How can I retrieve the light and escape alive?
she said. While the young woman seemingly blacked out, the doll stretched his arms and got to work. He used the yarn on the witch's table and knitted the finest apron seen in the land. He cooked up a lovely meal, but not particularly for humans. Then he built 2 small, cozy wooden houses, also not fitting for humans. Last but not least, right before the sustenance depleted from his system, he had found a ribbon for Vasalisa.
Oh, little one.
She said when she woke up.
Thank you so much for all of this. But this has nothing to do with the task Baba Yaga has given me. How can I use this?
Just before the doll could answer, its eyes closed, falling into a deep slumber once again. The young woman panicked. Her heart pounded against her chest. She heard Baba Yaga grunting and moaning with a stretch. The evil witch would soon wake up, but a moment of realization struck her mind. The skulls on the fence earlier were glowing with different colors of light. Maybe one of those would do the trick. Vasalisa ran out of the swing hut on chicken legs as quickly as possible. She carried the items, stumbling along the way as the vicious dog, sneaky cat, the maid, and the tree were all surrounding her. She grabbed the apron and gave the maid while complimenting the worker's hard efforts. A thank you, a kind smile, a warm hug were also part of that package deal. The vicious dog leaped in the air as its drool flew behind it. Its sharp teeth were about to bite Vasalisa's face off, but it landed gracefully, then gave a whimper. The cat jumped up, ready to claw the flesh off the woman's bones, but retracted its aggression as well. There was a bowl of freshly cooked food for the animals and 2 cozy wooden kennels for them. She bowed while giving them a warm stroke of their fur and hurried to the gate. Then she remembered the gate had sharp teeth as locks. There was no way the young woman was going to put her fingers anywhere near there, and so she jumped the fence. The first and last line of defense of the hut was the tree, slapping its branches wildly like whoops. But Vasalisa was calm and patient. She pulled out the ribbon and tied its branches until the tree came to rest, like a human realizing that the nightmare was finally over. And so Vasalisa grabbed one of the skulls from the fence and ran like the wind without ever looking back. Baba Yaga woke up with rage. The witch shrieked so loud that it vibrated the very ground. "Where is the woman?" she demanded in a foul, evil voice. The maid said, "I let her through. Look, Grandma, she gave me an apron. She gave me a hug and thanked me for what I do. I've served you for so long and you never so much as gave me respect to even look me in the eye." The witch growled as she pushed through the door, looking at the cat and dog.
"And you two, where did she go?"
The maid spoke again. "Look, Grandma, they've got a meal and 2 cozy homes to shield them from the stormy nights. You never even petted them." Baba Yaga hissed and stormed towards the tree.
"And you, what a disappointing waste of bark you've been."
One last time the maid interjected. "Look at its branches, Grandma, it's tied. No longer shall it suffer and hurt itself and whoop the ground in agony." Just as Baba Yaga was going to attack the maid, the dog, the cat, and the tree took charge. The witch knew she was outnumbered, and for the first time, she never knew what to do. They knew her tricks, her spells, her powers. They knew her moves before she even made it. Hence, as cowardly as cowards could be, Baba Yaga hopped onto her broom and flew away into the night, shrieking in defeat. That night, when Vasalisa went home, she proudly stood at the door offering the skull as light. The stepsisters, along with their mother, grabbed the skull and pushed the young woman back outside, laughing cunningly, hiding their disappointment that she was still alive. But the skull lit up like a fireplace, flashing a light brighter than lightning, and burned the evil stepmother and her daughters, turning them into ash. When the young woman's father returned to the village, she explained everything to him. Many years later, the old man never remarried, rather lived happily ever after with Vasalisa and her newlywed husband, the prince of the land. She was known as the woman who bested Baba Yaga. The old witch was defeated that night, not with magic, not with physical strength or evil intent. Baba Yaga was defeated with something she never witnessed in her entire miserable life: kindness. Oh, and as for the doll, Vasalisa still kept and carried it everywhere she went, though it wasn't enchanted, not in the way she thought at least. It never could eat, talk, chop wood, knead the dough, sweep the floor, or even knit an apron. The doll was her subconscious, giving her strength, encouragement, and advice, things she never received from her new family. She was the one making all the choices, doing all the surviving because she had to. After all, it was just a handmade doll gifted to her by her beloved mother that was created into something more by Vasalisa's mind. Because sometimes, being told or shown something you already know by someone else convinces your confidence to at least try. And until the next one, do take care.